Welcome to Wager Talk Today. It is Thursday, June 20th, 2024, summer solstice, the longest day of the year. This will not be the longest show of the year, however. That being said, we have a loaded Thursday edition, a trio of quality guests to join us. Steve Merrill, my co-host, will be here in just a moment. We're going to have Ralph Michaels to open the show. He's going to talk a little bit of MLB. He's going to talk about the Brewers today and their game at San Diego. He's also going to talk some college football, Georgia and their season win total. And we've got a chart, the man's after my own heart, looking at week one NFL. You better believe we're talking football, as many shows as we can over the summer months. In What Bettors Learned, I'm going to talk about my 5% play last night, and we'll give an update on Prez from the WSOP. Ross Benjamin's going to join us. He's going to talk the Padres Brewers total, as well as the Cardinals and the Giants. And my big game breakdown, again, early start MLB is on center stage today. We're going to talk Nationals Diamondbacks. That one first pitch just after the game. And then Kyle Anthony's going to close out the show with a pair of UFC winners. Kyle's been red hot in UFC all year long. He's got one favorite, one underdog he wants to talk about before this show is through. Before we get started, I want to let you know about a great promo right now at WagerTalk.com. It's real simple. You buy the month of July, you get the rest of June absolutely free. And of course, the longer you wait, the sooner you buy, the more you get. The longer you wait, the less you get. So it's real simple. Great promo to take advantage of right now, today. Rest of June free if you buy any monthly package for July that's available site-wide at WagerTalk.com. Let's bring in Ralph Michaels. Ralph, how are you today? Summer solstice. Do you do anything special for a day like today, the Pen?
I am going to the Tribe game this afternoon. Starts in about an hour. So as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go sweat my ass off in Jacobs Field. I still call it Jacobs Field, and I still call them the Indians. So I'll be doing a little afternoon baseball.
That's awesome. It's a hot day. It's a real hot day again back east, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's Florida-ish.
You should enjoy the afternoon. That being said, live baseball, there's nothing like it. It doesn't matter how bad the weather is. Something about going to a game and sitting in the sun, eating your peanuts and Cracker Jacks. It's worthwhile to do at least a couple times during baseball season. Let's start right now with some MLB for this evening. There aren't many night games. In fact, this is one of only two tonight. That would be the Padres and the Brewers. Right now, look at the Wager Talk live odds screen. Basically priced like a pick'em game. San Diego, minus 105, minus 110. Total here, 8.5, juice to the over. What do you want to do with the Brewers and Padres?
Listen, we have two starters starting this game that the casual fan likely knows nothing about. Mazur for the Padres. He was a second-round pick. Last year was his first season in the program. He pitched in single A and double A, made the big jump this year, pitched well in spring camps, and he's now making his fourth start. In his first start this season, he pitched against the Angels, only allowed 2 hits in 6 innings, but he struggled with control. He gave up 4 walks, and they actually lost that game. Now you take a look at his first 3 starts. He has a 2.05 whip. He has an 8-13 strikeout to walk ratio in 12 2/3 innings. And I think there's actually some pressure on him pitching at home more than so on the road. San Diego, of course, snapped their 5-game losing streak, knocking off Philly in the series finale. But they do have to fly home from Philadelphia cross country with the time change. Padres only 4-9 at home with the line between the 125s. And you look at Milwaukee, Milwaukee has Wilson on the mound. Wilson is a spot starter. He's going to give you 4 or 5 innings. And if you look at his start logs, you're going to see 2 bad performances back-to-back games, including allowing 7 games in his last start. Now, that would concern me, except this. Last time, when it would have been his turn to start, they actually started a reliever for the first 2 batters. He came in, pitched 5 1/3 shutout innings, so I feel comfortable that he's back to his normal form, whereas in the 7 starts previous to allowing those 7 runs, he allowed 2 runs or less in 6 of those starts. Teddy, I'm going to bring up my biggest concern, and I always want to point this out, guys. If you can't find anything wrong with the game, you're not handicapping hard enough. Milwaukee's bats are a concern. They've averaged only 6.5 hits per game the last 6. But I'll tell you what, they've had 30 walks, 5 walks per game in the last 6 games. So despite averaging under 7 hits per game, they've actually averaged 4 runs per game. So we have a team that's taking a lot of walks against a pitcher that hasn't found his control yet. Situation for me to jump on Milwaukee. This is an actual client release for Thursday.
So I was just going through the Brewers' recent game logs, and it just stood out to me as I was thinking of what follow-up question can I ask Ralph on this one. And Milwaukee, they've been really good in June as a favorite. When you take them out of the favorites role, when you put them in a pick-em or a dog role, they have not been nearly as good. Obviously, most teams aren't, but it really stood out to me when you look the last, half dozen times this team's been either short chalk, short dog, or pick-em. They've been losing those games consistently. Does that concern you here when you look at that game log for the Brewers? They're winning as chalk, but they're not winning games like this one.
Well, Teddy, I only have the last 10 games in front of me. I mean, and you look at them as a favorite of 120. They beat Toronto as a 120 favorite. They beat Toronto again as a 120 favorite. They beat Cincinnati as a 130 favorite, and they lost to the Angels as a 120. So, 3-1 in my book the last 10. I didn't go back further than that because I think that's current form. That includes they went to Detroit to a series, and they hosted Toronto and Cincinnati, and they went back to the LA Angels. So I'm comfortable with them in this role. I think it's a good spot for them. Remember, they were staying in LA. They played at Anaheim, so they had the short drive down I-5. I am comfortable with the Brewers today.
Steve Merrill's going to join us now, I believe.
Michaels. Yeah, as I say, I'm here, hey, Teddy. Steve. Thank you for starting the show for me. We're going to give you a little extra work today since you're taking tomorrow off. I thought it was only fair. But Ralph, Teddy started talking college football yesterday, so I thought it was very appropriate that we keep it going with you today. Teddy mentioned yesterday Alabama, Michigan, both priced at 9.5 for season wins, which, pretty low, obviously, for perennial national title contenders. You're going to talk about another perennial contender, and that's Georgia, who's priced a little bit higher at 10.5. Under, over. What are you doing with the Georgia Bulldogs?
Well, guys, the NFL is only 42 days until the Hall of Fame game on August 1st. College football only 65 days away. And I'm very excited. Next week, I'll be doing the Gold Sheet Top 25 college football previews. We're going to start with Georgia, and I'll tell you what. This is a client release for me, and I already released it to my clients. Folks, the early bird for NFL and college football is only $7.77 right now. So as soon as anyone that you subscribe to loads of futures play, you get it. So you make sure you get that best line. Georgia's 10.5 minus 110. So it's juiced even on both sides. You look at what Georgia did last year, 13-1. Guys, Georgia has not lost a regular season game the last 3 years. An amazing stretch for the Bulldogs. They return 13 starters. If you think 13 starters isn't much, well, the last 4 years, they've returned 13 twice, 11 and 10. So this is as many starters as they've returned in half a decade. They were number 3 in yards per play diff last year, a very impressive 2.5 yards per play. They're number 29 in returning production. They have a team that has, again, not lost a regular season game in 3 years, but still return their head coach, OC, and DC. And when I look at the schedule, I have them favored in every game. I have them favored by 16 points or more in 9 of their 12 games. And their 2 toughest games, at Alabama, I project them to be a 3-point favorite. Guess what? Alabama only returns 8 starters and is number 98 in returning production. They're fortunate to play Alabama early while they're still a young and inexperienced team. Their second toughest game, they go to Texas. Guess what? They host Mississippi State the game prior. They're going to be a 5-touchdown favorite. Guess who Texas has prior to hosting Georgia? They have the Red River rivalry. So their 2 toughest games, great scheduling spot. Georgia Bulldogs over 10.5 wins for the 2024 college football season.
So yesterday, after I talked about Michigan under 9.5 wins, my friends were texting me and yelling at me, saying that Michigan's juiced way to the under at 9.5 wins. And I should have said it was 9 wins, even though it's 9.5 at many books. Because it's, it's a minus $2 or higher to get Wolverines minus or under 9.5 wins. What's the juice with looking like on Georgia now? Is this 10.5 widely available? Is that a scenario where we've seen money come in on the over, money come in on the under? Because from a juice scenario, is 10.5 a number that people can get without getting into the minus $2 range?
Teddy, I loaded it yesterday at minus $110. I went to DraftKings right before we went out. It's still minus $110. So you have no issues with the juice. And that's a great point, Teddy. You can't look at season win totals without adding the juice in there, guys, because you get some minus 160s, minus 170s on over half the teams. And it takes about, 90 cents to move it about that half win mark. So always keep that in mind. This is juiced at minus 110 both ways.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick, Steve, because you made a key point. There's a huge difference between how much a half a win is worth in the college football marketplace versus the NFL marketplace. In the NFL, a half win in the middle of the pack is worth anywhere from 45 to 50 cents worth of juice. In college football, a half win can be easily worth twice that, because you can look at a schedule prior to the season and then say, there's 3 or 4 games that are toss-ups. Everything else, this team's going to win or this team's going to lose. So the half wins are worth more juice in college football than in the NFL. Sorry, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just on mathematically, 12 games versus 17 games is 70% as many games, 30% less games. So that alone makes it worth more. And then, like you said, Teddy, every NFL game, theoretically, one team can beat the other. In college football, with these powerhouse teams, you have a handful, like Ralph said, almost every game but 2 is going to be a 2.5 touchdown line or more. So I love handicapping college win totals for that reason, because it really comes down to handicapping just a couple games on the entire season to really figure out which way you want to go. And that's the beauty of it versus the NFL, in which pretty much anything can happen on any given Sunday. As I say earlier, it's the longest day of the year. Summer has officially begun. The NHL didn't get the memo as NHL continues tomorrow night. The Canadians just don't get it, Ralph. But it's never too early to talk football because it is summertime. So we just looked some college football, NFL football around the corner as well. Give us a chart on week 1 home teams. These lines are widely available as well. And I love week 1 angles because it makes a lot of sense. The team has all summer, all August to prepare. And there's certain situations, Ralph, that definitely work year after year.
Well, let's remember this, guys. Vegas bookmakers are putting up lines where they expect the public to bet them. They're not always putting up lines where they are. Who do the public games like? Oh, the home teams. Well, this is going to surprise you guys. It doesn't get any easier than looking at this chart and pulling out several important notes. This is simply the top section to the right. Simply every NFL home team since 2014. And I did exclude the COVID year because there were no fans and you had no spring, you had no preseason, so it was different. So take a look. If you bet every home team since 2014, you have gone 44.3% against the spread. Simple. And why is that? I'm going to throw this out to you, see if you guys agree. When you're a road team in the NFL, you check in 2 days early. You take a flight. You're in a hotel. You're in your routine. It's more of a business project. Now, when you're at home, most NFL teams still stay at a hotel the night before, but it's much different. So blindly looking at, just basically looking at NFL home teams, it's 44.3%. Next step down, still in the gray, you see the home favorite and home pick on the left, the home dogs on the right. Well, if you're a home pick or a home favorite since 2014, you have gone 39.3%, and 58.9% of those games have gone under the total. But if you're a home dog in week 1, you have won 52.9%. And let me carry that on one step further. Look in the green, guys. If you're a week 1 division home favorite, you have covered 25.9%. If you're a week 1 division home dog, you have covered 75%. And in the green, dark green with the white text, you combine that division away favorite, division home favorite poor record with the division home dog very good record. Simply this: week 1 division dogs of +2 and higher are 27-9, 75% since 2014.
So that is a chart that says very clearly, look at divisional home dogs week 1 in the NFL. What do we got on this year's card that fits into that subset, Ralph?
You know, I believe there's only 2 division games, Teddy. So I just added the divisions at the very end because, again, we like to talk about this year and give you actionable info. But this chart to me has been powerful for years. So to me, you know, taking those division dogs of +2 or higher is the one point I would take. And also take a look at week 1 on the very top right chart. Unders have hit to the tune of 57.1% at every game won.
And the 2 divisional games week 1, Raiders-Chargers, Panthers-Saints. The Raiders 3.5-point dogs, the Panthers 5-point dogs week 1 for NFL. Sorry, Steve. I cut you off twice.
Yeah, Ralph, it makes a lot of sense on the over-unders. I think, obviously, we talk about, the preseason, the defense is ahead of the offense. But, yeah, that 80 and 60 under versus over, I think, is pretty stellar as well. I'm assuming some of that hit last year because we obviously know the last couple of years the unders were cashing a lot faster. But one other thing I wanted to point out is just big sample size. Home dogs do well. Home favorites don't, which means road dogs do well. And I added it up here. That would mean roughly, if you take, the pick'ems might throw it off a bit, but all underdogs, road or home in game 1 is 78 and 59 approximately. So you could also make a case for just playing underdogs in general. Obviously, the home dog subset a little bit stronger, but I think that also makes sense, right? There's some random variance in week 1, and when there's randomness, why not take some points with some underdogs?
Absolutely. And again, with the lower scoring, the points have more value. If we could pop the chart up one more second, Dan, I just want to show on the very bottom, I broke down the totals for week 1, going back to since 2013. Take a look at totals at 41.5 or less. They're 31% to the over. So when you have a low total, those low totals have gone under the total 69%. Take a look to the right. Totals of 48.5 or more have gone over 57.1% of the time. So those variances, those low and high variances, hold true week number 1 in the NFL as well.
And the low totals for week 1, Vikings-Giants sitting at 41, Panthers-Saints sitting at 40.5, Commanders-Bucks sitting at 41.5. All 3 of those fall into the 41.5 or lower category. Ralph Michaels, fantastic information as always. What do you have to promote, my friend?
Guys, again, Teddy mentioned the special buy one, get one. I want to, again, bring up the early bird. The early bird special for NFL and college football is available on everybody's page. It's $777. That's the lowest price we've ever offered for our early bird package. NFL 42 days away. I'll be loading more plays the next couple of days. Jump in now. It's never too early to be talking football.
Ralph Michaels, it's definitely never too early because it's officially summer now, and the Canadians will get the memo soon, Teddy. The NHL might be over tomorrow night on Friday. If not, it'll be over on Monday. But yeah, look, football prep is important. I know, Teddy, you do a ton of it, and your season 1 report work is about to begin for both the NFL. And of course, you gave out a free play yesterday for Michigan's. Go back and watch Wednesday's episode for Michigan season wins. Ralph Michaels just gave you Georgia here on Thursday. All right, Teddy, you will not be with us tomorrow and Friday. Andy Lang will be co-hosting with myself, Steve Merrill. Will you be seeing the Prez, and what did bettors learn?
Yeah, so we got to talk about Prez. There's 2 things I want to talk about today. First, let's talk about him. Prez at the WSOP, the World Series of Poker here in Las Vegas. He cashed in the deep stack event, finished, 400th or something, made some money doing that. And he actually went out on a bad beat in that. And he's live in the senior event. He's having a great go of it. Big stack into day 2. He survived aces getting beaten yesterday. He survived kings getting cracked yesterday. So he's checking his Twitter if you want to root him on at Prez WagerTalk. He is having a good run right now, at least so far in the World Series of Poker. Then again, there's a decent chance I just jinxed him. 5% big ticket at MLB last night. Only the second one in baseball this season. And that game made me freaking crazy. I had the over, the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. The Blue Jays finished the game 1 of 15 with runners in scoring position. I think they ended every half inning with a runner on third base. But the Red Sox bats stayed hot. 7-3 final. Went over 8. My number was 9 juice to the over. That's why I made it a 5% play. I don't see a lot of games where I total a full run different from where the market is. Went over that too. And the long-term record for the 5% big ticket, this is one that I'm proud of. I'm not a guy that puts out a ton of 5% plays. I've had 127 of them since May of 2021. Average about 3.5 per month, more during football season, less the rest of the year. And I'm 78 and 49, 61% long-term track record. When you have a track record above 60% with your strongest plays, you're doing something right. And I won again last night, 6-3 with the last 9 since March. It's not all in the rearview mirror from years ago. I'm probably not going to have many 5% over the summer. But when I do, pay attention. Get on board. That's what I learned last night. Steve, back to you.
Yeah, we talked about it. Baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. And line value matters in baseball as well with totals, because that's like a real point spread now, right? We were talking about the money line. It's win or lose. Long term, it does matter. But yeah, look, that's the difference. People say, what's the difference between a 3 or 4 or 5% play? It's obviously maybe a stronger situation, more angles working for you, but it's also line value. That's usually the thing that makes the difference, is getting that extra half point or full point in football and basketball, or with totals in baseball. And it does come into play more than people realize, Teddy. So, yeah, nice win there. And don't forget, we do have some specials still going, including the rest of June for free. You could have gotten that 5% for free last night with Teddy. If you buy July, you get the rest of June free, every and all cappers that you would like. And I swept the board last night for the 7th straight day, now on a 10-0 run the last 7 days. I've not lost in over a week, 10-0 all sports, and now 19-3 the last 22. And, Teddy, we made this offer 3 days ago on Monday. I've gone 6-0 since. So shame on you once again, people. If you're not getting June for free, you've got 11 days remaining. 11 days still to get for free when you buy July. It's that simple. No promo code needed. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Teddy covers, Ralph Michaels, and everybody else there as well, including, Teddy, the newest member of the family at WagerTalk.com, Ross Benjamin. And let's bring him on. You can also get Ross June for free when you buy July. And Ross, we saw you a couple of days ago on Tuesday. We had to have you back here on Thursday. How are you doing, my friend?
It's all good, and pleasure to be with you and Teddy as always. And, started the week Monday and Tuesday with back-to-back days where I cashed in on my 5% plays. The Tuesday $2 special cashed in easily, and then Monday night I had the Boston Celtics. So speaking of 5% plays, 20-8 since February the 4th with my 5% plays, good for 71%, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did not jinx you on the $2 Tuesday, just like Teddy has not jinxed in the Prez.
We tried.
When you say it, and then you say you're going to jinx him, that's the reverse jinx, which means Prez is going to win the whole thing now. That's how it works, and that's why Teddy did it. He knows. He's been around for a while. Ross, let's talk some baseball with you. Yeah, exactly. It's not my first reverse jinx. We got 2 night games, a lot of daytime baseball, but we do have 2 night games. We're going to get to a really interesting game in a moment. I'm going to do a standalone video on it after the show, actually, the Rickwood game between the Giants. It's the Field of Dreams game, Giants-Cardinals. But let's first talk about the late night game, Padres-Brewers. What are you doing with this one, Ross Benjamin, San Diego, Milwaukee?
We're going to look at the total here, guys. Right now it's at 8.5. Bryce Wilson gets a start for the Milwaukee Brewers. And some of this Ralph already touched upon in his money line pick on this game. But Wilson, over his last 4 starts, a 7.41 ERA, a 1.88 whip. That qualifies as not good form, Teddy. Adam Mazer, 0-3 in his last 3 team starts with a 7.81 ERA, a 2.05 whip, only averaging a little over 4 innings pitched per start. So 2 struggling starting pitchers in this matchup. And then you have the Padres bullpen that over their last 7 games, a staff 6.35 ERA, 1.81 whip, and allowing 6 home runs over 22 and 2/3 innings pitched. Not very good. Again, the Padres, who very interesting, they've hit 51 home runs at home this year, which when you look at the amount of home games they played and the home runs they've hit, it doesn't equate to much per game. However, over their last 6 home games, 15 of those 51 home runs were hit. So the Padres are on power surge at home of late. You look at the Milwaukee Brewers, they've done very well versus right-handed starting pitchers this year, averaging over 5.2 runs per game, and only 21 of those 56 games went under the total. The Padres, on the other hand, 50 games against right-handed starting pitchers, averaging over 5 runs per game. And I know I'm going to take a wild guess that Teddy's going to bring to my attention that Milwaukee hasn't been hitting of late. Fully aware of that, Teddy. And if that wasn't one of your questions, I apologize, but I'm going Brewers Padres over the total of 8.5.
Well, yeah, see, the whole thing is that right at the end, if you take away my follow-up question, it leaves me with a tongue-tied. That being said,
reverse jinx.
That wasn't my follow-up question. I appreciate you trying to get ahead of it. I just want to ask about Petco, because to me, I have a hard time betting overs at Petco. It's the lowest scoring park in baseball. This year, I think it's only ranked 29th, not 30th. It says Seattle's been lower scoring. But when you start talking about 8.5, and there are 9s out there on this game right now, where you got to get to 10 runs at Petco, do you have any issues with this particular field where fly balls just die at the warning track like they do in no other park in baseball?
I would have a lot more concerns if this was 10 years ago before they moved the dimensions in. I also would have a lot more concerns if this game was played maybe 2 weeks ago. When I look at the Padres' home run numbers or power numbers, whatever term you want to use, and they were pretty much anemic in the early part of the season in terms of home runs hit at home. But like I alluded to, Teddy, I can't ignore the fact that over the last 6 home games, 15 home runs. And, again, we've talked about this before. The Padres, to me, were one of those underachieving offensive teams early on. And they're capable of a lot more, and they're starting to show that of late, especially at home. So great question once again, and I hope I gave you a great answer as well.
This is how you know Ross Benjamin is a wily veteran. That's why he's exclusive at WagerTalk.com. He tried to get ahead of the question. Who knows? That very well might have been the question, but Teddy is such a wily veteran, he could have switched it at the last moment. We will never know for sure. And that's why this is a game you cannot win, Ross Benjamin. So let's get on to the next game here on the nighttime card. I am doing a standalone video on this game. It's the Field of Dreams game. It's not in the cornfield this year, though. It's in Alabama at Rickwood Ballpark, which is the oldest existing professional baseball field in the country, over 100 years old. It's been in many movies over the 80s and 90s. I think the 42 movie about Jackie Robinson was filmed here, some others, but they have made some modifications. They put a lot of money into it just for this single game. It's kind of crazy in a way, but they put padded walls, other things, upgraded maybe some of the amenities as well. But yeah, National League TV on Fox tonight at 7 Eastern, so I think it's worth checking out. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to play this game while they're watching, Ross. So how are you breaking this down? Cardinals and Giants. Tricky handicap, obviously, because it's an unusual ballpark.
Yeah, it would be much trickier, Steve, if I was concentrating on the total here, because then we got to get into dimensions, how the ballpark plays. And, of course, we have no sample size of any length to draw from in that regard. So I'm going to concentrate on the money line here. Both teams' consensus line over at WagerTalk odds shows both teams at minus 110 the last I looked. Keaton Wind for the San Francisco Giants, absolutely horrible, Teddy. Over his last 5 starts, the Giants have gone 0-5 of those games. And you know what? His 13.02 ERA and 198 whip have a lot to do with the Giants not having a success over that course of time. And the San Francisco bullpen, he doesn't figure to get much support from them either. When you look at their numbers over the last 7, 6.06 ERA, 150 whip, and 6 home runs over the last 7 games. And I heard Ralph talking earlier on your follow-up question, and I want people to realize sometimes you can get misled by overall season numbers, especially in Major League Baseball where there's 162 games. I focus a lot on form, like Ralph alluded to, and the San Francisco bullpen form right now is not very good. And they also have averaged over 5 innings pitched over the last 7 games, and that equates to a bullpen that's tired and worn down and with limited options. The San Francisco Giants, 20-13 during the day, but at night, 16-26. The Cardinals, on the other hand, same type of splits. They are very good at night and not so good during the day. 13-18 during the day, 23-19 at night. Andre Palat gets a start for the Cardinals. He's underwhelming to say the least, but in this type of starting pitching matchup, Teddy, he's the lesser of 2 evils. And then you couple that with the fact the Cardinals bullpen much better than the San Francisco bullpen has been over their last 7, as the Cardinals bullpen has a 2.89 ERA over their last 7. And the Giants pitching overall, you look at recent games, they've allowed 5 runs or more in the last 5 and 5 of their last 6. I'm going to go with the St. Louis Cardinals here. And by the way, St. Louis is coming off back-to-back losses. They're 3-0 in their last 3 off back-to-back losses. Haven't lost 3 in a row since May 11th. I'm going to go with the Cardinals here, Teddy, minus 110 over the Giants.
So I want to talk about Keaton Winn here for a moment, because this is the same. Yesterday, I forget who it was. So it came on and made a real case against Patrick Corbin. Patrick Corbin's the worst pitcher in baseball. I'm like, well, why do they keep throwing him out there every 5 days? Keaton Winn is a guy who they're still throwing out there every 5 days. He was fine in April. When you look at his results of late, what did he have? He played the Phillies at Philadelphia, the Rockies in Colorado, and the Dodgers. Then he went on the IL. His first start back wasn't good. And then the last time out, he pitched fairly well. With a pitcher like Winn, who clearly the organization wants to see succeed, clearly he's getting opportunities that other guys wouldn't get. Isn't there more upside from this guy than downside right now?
Well, the Giants obviously think that. Like you said, in most situations, when you see a guy with an over a 13 ERA over his last 5 starts, you're looking at who might be pitching very good at your AAA level and make a move in that regard, or substitute him for somebody who's a long reliever and give him a shot. But that's not been the case. I just think at this particular moment in time, yes, they still think he's a lot better pitcher than what he's shown of late. They're very high on his upside, but I can't look. It's like trying to catch an inside straight in poker on the river card. Is it possible? Yes. It's a similar type scenario. Is he bound to snap out of this sooner or later? Yeah, but, I got to see something better than what I've seen over the last 5 starts. And I got to believe San Francisco isn't really high on their other options as well. That may be part of it, Teddy, because that may be why they're sticking with them. So it's the best I can answer. Again, one of those fabulous questions from Mr. Serbansky.
Yeah, I'll chime in on it as well. We talked about Corbin more in the baseball show yesterday, and I actually pulled up the Nationals AAA pitching stats. Their top 5 guys, really their top 4 guys, there are only 4 guys that have double-digit starts at Rochester, all have terrible numbers this year. So a lot of times it is you don't have another option to pull up. But the thing that jumps out to me about Keaton Winn is very interesting. I'll talk more about this in my standalone video today here on the channel, but ERA is a very important stat. It's one of the better pitching stats, but I think WHIP is a better stat, and he actually has a pretty good WHIP. In fact, he has a lower WHIP than the opposing starter tonight. His WHIP on the season, 1.33, and you look at the WHIP here for Blante, it's 1.39. So that's walks and hits per innings pitched. So obviously you say, well, why is your ERA so high? It's because probably home runs, right? That's the one hit that can give up a lot of runs, and he has had problems allowing the home runs this year. So there again, like you said, Ross, it's kind of tricky to handicap a guy. Is he going to give up a home run or not? And here again, we're in what's probably a little bit of a smaller ballpark tonight, as the total saw some sharp money go from 8.5 to 9. So that's going to be the key, in my opinion, is if he keeps up from giving home runs. And that's really been what's hurt Winn from winning more this season, Ross Benjamin.
Yeah, if Ross, I can interject, can I interject one thought on that, Steve? Again, it goes back to what I just touched upon. In terms of looking at overall numbers and then looking at recent numbers. Yes, his WHIP is 1.33 on the season, excuse me. I think that's what you touched upon. But over the last 5, it's 198. You know what I mean? So I can care less about, again, with all due respect to you, you pointed out a pretty good, I'm glad you brought that up. But, his overall WHIP for the season is okay, but recently, he's been terrible in that regard. And I agree with you. I put a lot more emphasis on WHIP than I do ERA, like yourself.
Yeah, no question about it. But then, like Teddy kind of alluded at, the last 5 at Philly, at the thin air of Colorado, the Dodgers, and Texas. So yeah, they've definitely had some tough opponents. So we'll see. One indicator normally is when they keep them in the rotation after multiple bad starts, there's usually something there, unless there's no other option. And that is something that's always been very fascinating to me, guys, handicapping baseball for as long as we all have. About over 100 years of experience, by the way, the 3 of us combined, handicapping MLB. And that's a compliment, not an insult to any of you, although I am younger than both of you. Ross Benjamin, what do you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
Well, if you see this video in time, I got a game going at 1 o'clock, money line pick. And then also I'll have a total in the Baltimore and Yankees game at 4:05 p.m. Eastern time today. You can get those right now at WagerTalk. And also, folks, like I alluded to earlier, keep an eye on my 5% top plays, 20-8, including 2-0 this week. And I'll have 2 more before the end of the month because that's our allotment. And not bad, 20-8, 71% since February 4th of this year. So looking forward to a big baseball season, looking forward to a nice hot run in baseball, up over 30 units since August 4th of last year in baseball, up over 39 units overall in all sports since August 4th last year too. So a lot going on at WagerTalk. Look forward to it. And thank you again, guys. I always enjoy being on the show with you too.
And you can find Ross every week here doing the standalone videos as well. He does baseball videos almost on a daily basis here with free plays on WagerTalk TV. Yet another reason to hit subscribe and click the bell for instant alerts when the shows and the free play videos go up each and every day here on the channel. Teddy, over 160,000 subscribers now on WagerTalk TV. I remember a couple years ago we were happy we got to 50, and it's been exponential ever since. All right, we're going to talk a little UFC in a moment with Kyle Anthony, our fight expert at WagerTalk.com. But before we do so, Teddy, let's do a little daytime baseball for the live viewers here on WagerTalk today. Big game breakdown. Perhaps still my Washington Nationals against the defending NL champ Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, this one goes off in less than half an hour. Let's give a bettable opinion for Thursday. Big game breakdown style. The D-backs and the Nationals right now. Look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. We have seen some Washington money this morning. Was minus 130, minus 135 last night. This morning it's more like minus 140 / minus 145 for the Nats. That being said, the Nats are bet on. Gore is bet on. They deserve to be taking the money. Washington's 9-2 their last 11 ball games. All right. This isn't a team that's hopping around playing 500. They're playing winning baseball right now. Mackenzie Gore, last 2 starts, absolutely dominant. 1 run allowed each time. He's coming off a performance where he walked 1, struck out 10. He's got one of the best swinging strikes rates. Arizona, they chase against left-handed pitchers. And, of course, we look at Gore's numbers. I mean, this is a guy that has allowed 3 earned runs or less in 13 of his 14 starts. 2 earned runs or less 11 times. And that's with a BABIP, a batting average on balls in play, that's over 300. It's already been going down his last couple starts, and it's going to go down further. So he's been a little bit unlucky, and he still put up these type of numbers. Mackenzie Gore, bet on potential. Arizona lost last night, couldn't hit Corbin, couldn't hit the bullpen behind him. They have Ryan Nelson, who's been up and down, up and down. He's coming off a gem against the White Sox. Big deal. You're supposed to throw gems against the White Sox. Washington is a team that has found ways to win all kinds of games. Listen to this bet on quote from Dave Martinez. Yesterday, what they did, scratched out 3 runs. Quote, I talk about it all the time. Hitting is hard, and you're going to go through these lapses where it's that when you score 2 or 3 runs, but you've got a chance to win. That's what I love about this team. They don't give up. Give me the Nats. Give me the Nats first 5 if you want them. Give me the Nats full game. Mackenzie Gore to get the job done against Arizona. There's your big game breakdown. And again, this one starts in less than half an hour. If you're going to bet it, sooner rather than later. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Little freebie, a bonus there for the live viewers here on WagerTalk TV. 1:05 Eastern start Thursday afternoon, Nationals and the Diamondbacks. And don't forget, MLB first pitch went early today as well since there's so many day games, and that is on the channel right now. So some additional free baseball content for you here on WagerTalk TV. And then I'll have a standalone video here right after the show for the Rickwood game between the Cardinals and Giants. I'll have a free play in that game for everybody if you're joining us later in the day here. So click subscribe and click the bell as well. Thumbs up, like is greatly appreciated, and comment on the replay as we read the comments and we reply back. All right, let's close it off now with some fights. UFC Fight Night this weekend. Kyle Anthony, MMA expert. And Kyle, one thing I love is that when you come on the show, you always give us a couple free plays, but you don't shy away from the big ones, the main event. You always bring it. Give us something in the main event for this Saturday.
In the main event here, we've got Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliaskarov here, and there's definitely a lot of moving parts to this fight here, where you've got Whittaker was supposed to fight Chimaev this main event and ends up now falling out. You've got Ikram Aliaskarov, who's a guy that was supposed to be fighting last week. Now, the crazy part is that was in Vegas, and he found out Wednesday, Thursday of last week, and they shipped him to Saudi Arabia where this fight's taking place, and a lot of moving parts there, cutting weight, days out from a fight, and I think that's really going to hurt a lot of the cardio, a lot of the movement. It could drain some energy. Plus, you got to add in the fact that this is a 5-round fight, and Ikram was preparing for a 3-round fight in Vegas, and probably a fight where Ikram was going to run through this guy. Absolute bum he was fighting, and really was setting Ikram up for probably another highlight finish and moving him on and up the rankings. But now he's fighting Robert Whitaker. Short notice for him here on the other side of the planet. I think it's definitely a lot of moving parts. But if you look at really Ikram as a whole, this guy is legit. I mean, you definitely know he definitely has power. He's going to move forward. He's got, heavy hands. He's got that wrestling style too, that he's going to be able to get you down. And that could definitely, make Whitaker uncomfortable. There's definitely going to be keeping him off balance, those kinds of things. But there are multiple really, positives for the Whitaker side here. And I think the first is going to be the 5 rounds, weaponizing that cardio. But the other part is going to be his 82% takedown defense rate. Whitaker, solid when it comes to his takedown defense. He can stay out of danger. He's very good at creating space. And I think some of those things can help him. But also the biggest thing here is going to be his footwork and his distance management. Really light-footed, can work his angles, pitter-patter shots, work back in and out of range. And I think a guy like Aliaskarov, who's going to push forward, going to throw, I think that does help the counter-striking for Whitaker as well. And then lastly, you got to look at strength of schedule here, and it's worlds apart when you're looking at this. You've got Whitaker since 2014, he's 14-3. So over that decade, the only people that he's lost to was the current champion, Dricus du Plessis, and also Israel Adesanya twice. Besides for that, he has beaten high-level guys. He has looked good. You look at Ikram on the other side here. Of course, he's on his way up, but he fought a guy first in the UFC that's no longer even here. He beat Phil Hawes, who is an absolute glass cannon, can't take a shot. And then you've got Worley Alves, he beat recently, who's 1-5 out of his last 6. Now he's facing Whitaker. I think this is a massive step up. I think there's a lot of moving parts to this. It really plays a big-time favor into Whitaker here, 5 rounds. So I got to go Robert Whitaker here. I agree with this line movement. Money continues to come in on Whitaker, and I do agree with it. I think that he gets the job done in the main event.
Whitaker minus 150 versus Aliaskarov in the main event, it says Kyle Anthony. And Kyle, you did a fantastic job talking about that fight without anyone hitting on you before you started your analysis, like Prez usually does, telling you how beautiful you are. So you did very well.
This is the safe zone, you said. This is the safe zone.
I apologize, Kyle. I'll be more creepy next time.
Let's talk about one on the undercard where you're looking at a big dog that you think is live. That would be Rodriguez and Gastelum. Talk about this fight and why you like the dog at the big plus price.
Yeah, so I think this line is extremely wide here. You've got Kelvin Gastelum. He's minus 250 on the comeback. You've got Dana Rodriguez around plus 200. Now, the thing here is that I really do believe the market has really overreacted to the last 2 losses for Dana Rodriguez. Rodriguez comes in here, 4 straight victories, look good, look sharp, and then he fights really 2 tough stylistic matchups. He's got Neil Magny, who's a guy who's going to long, lanky, he's going to wear on you, he's going to weaponize cardio, he's going to push you up against the fence, take you down, and that's really what he did. He exhausted D-Rod and took him down 5 times and ended up getting that finish in that 3rd round. The next one was Ian Gary, Ian Gary may be a complete clown on social media, but the guy's an elite level fighter, great, undefeated, great distance management, high level kickboxing. And it was just a tough matchup for him. He wasn't able to get into rhythm. And now you look at stylistically in this matchup, I like the boxing of D-Rod big time here. I think he's got the crisper combinations. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage as well, too. I think he can utilize a lot of that. And I think the biggest advantage that D-Rod's going to have is going to be weaponizing just his high volume. He's really going to push a high volume output here. And if you look at just statistically, he basically averages double the significant landed strikes compared to Gastelum. You've got D-Rod, he's landing 7.3 significant strikes per minute, while you've got Gastelum landing 3.8. 1.5 significant strikes per minute. I think he can really push that forward, really utilize that, and really kind of bank rounds by just simply outlanding him. And then also the part is that D-Rod's not going to have to worry about takedowns. That was really the issue with Neil Magny. He couldn't really commit to his punches. It forced him to kind of be out of rhythm, and that's really where Neil Magny took it to him. Where you've got D-Rod here, 63% takedown defense rate. You've got Kelvin Gastelum, 30% success rate on takedowns. But the telling thing is that over the last 4 fights for Kelvin Gastelum, he's 1-16 on takedown attempts. Absolutely terrible. I think that's really a bad look. And then lastly, which is just really kind of happening today, is, Kelvin yesterday talked about, I'm not making weight. Like, he flat out said, I'm not making weight. Him and D-Rod ended up talking. Now there's a catch weight here. To me, again, that's terrible look here. That's not prepared. He's always had issues with cutting weight. Plus, Kelvin's 2-6 out of his last 8. One of those wins, arguably, he lost. He could be 1-7 out of his last 8. This is, I think, an easy, value play here on D-Rod. I think this number is way wide, so I do like this plus money on Rodriguez to get the job done.
Yeah, those catch weight fights, Kyle, are always intriguing to me because it does kind of tell you that the training something went awry or they just weren't where they thought they were. Mm-hmm. So very interesting take on that one. And once again, Kyle's got that play written up in detail on his page also. He does post free MMA plays at WagerTalk.com. And not just number one over the past year, but you're number one the past 3 years combined in MMA. And you've got some strong best bets going this weekend as well. For the gorgeous one, Kyle Anthony, tell us what you got.
There you go. Listen, last weekend was the first back-to-back losing cards that I've had this year in 2024. And not only was it that I had a 4% play on Josh Quinlan. He was -120. Going into the third round, the judges' scorecards, live line, he was anywhere from -700 to -1,000. Didn't get the nod there. It was a little bit frustrating. Should have cashed there for clients, but have another 4% play that I really do like right now. Have 3 there, 12-4 run on 4% best bet play. So really locked in. Also already have a 5% up for the following week. 2 plays already locked in for UFC 303 the following week. So really excited about it, and we're going to keep it rolling this week.
Great to see Kyle, as always, MMA expert, number one combined the last 3 years in profits for MMA. UFC is a large part of that. He's got some best bets right now. And also for the upcoming UFC 303, he has a 5%er. So once again, when you subscribe, you get the plays the minute they're released as a direct client. And when you sign up right now for July, all sports, you get the rest of June free. So that's Kyle Anthony. You get all of his fights for the next month and a half. You get Teddy's and my baseball best bets. You get any advance plays as well when they're released ahead of time. When you're a client, you get it instantly. When we send it out, everyone gets it. And once again, the rest of June free, the next 11 days when you buy July, every and all capper, no promo code needed at wagertalk.com. I'm on a mere 10-0 all sports run the last 7 days. Why not cash in again tonight? I've got a best bet for baseball. Teddy's got a daytime baseball best bet as well. So check out our plays for Thursday. Teddy, say hello to the Prez for me and wish him luck this weekend in the World Series of Poker. Andy Lang and myself, Steve Merrill, will be carrying the load tomorrow for the two of you, and then you guys will be back on Monday. Take us home.
I'll be back on Monday. I can't speak for Lawrence.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I might have to be on standby, right?
Yeah. I'm not gonna promise anything from him. That being said, that's gonna wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. Steve and Andy will do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, enjoy the games, enjoy summer solstice, and best of luck with all your bets.